Hey there everybody, this is Brian Fink from the Church of the Resurrection with a word from the DCC. And we're here today for video number 6. We're going to be looking at paragraphs 185 through 231 in our journey through the Catechism. And in this section, the Catechism will begin to lay out the profession of faith in its formulaic presentation. In other words, the creed. What we believe stated in a kind of formulaic way. At the outset, let's just take a minute and review this section in full. Essentially, the Catechism here will say, we're now going to talk about a lot of things, and we're going to go in a systematic way using the creed as the main articles of presentation. And the Catechism will actually use the Apostles' Creed as opposed to the Nicene Creed. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the later part of the video. But that's what the Catechism is going to do. It's going to say, here's the creed, and then it's going to ask, what is it? What does it do? How is it designed? And why does the Church use it as a formulaic way of presenting the faith? So that's kind of the 1-minute summary of this section. The goal of the creed is to gather in a systematic way all of the essential elements of the faith so that the essential elements of the faith can be handed on. And formula, I think, gets a bad rap as a term to use to describe what we believe. It seems sort of objective, it seems kind of esoteric, but a formula is a way of preserving the truth and of handing it on. We wouldn't look at a squared plus b squared equals c squared as a sort of rigid formula that, man, we have to follow. Well, the Church lays out what it believes in the same way. And in order to preserve that through time and space, the gathering of the essential elements of the faith are put into creeds. 2 creeds occupy the central importance for Catholics. As I mentioned, the Apostles' Creed, which is associated with the Church in Rome, and then the Nicene Creed, or its longer name, the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. And that's a mouthful, but what essentially it means is the creed, that one particularly that we profess every Sunday, both in the East and in the West, is a sort of outgrowth of the 2 first ecumenical councils, one in Nicaea in 325 and the second in Constantinople in 381. Hence, Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. But more than a formula, St. Ambrose in the Catechism notes something really powerful about the creed. He says that the creed is a spiritual seal. It's our heart's meditation. It is an ever-present guardian, and it is unquestionably the treasure of our soul. That's lovely. So, as I mentioned, the Catechism will sort of break down the creed using the Apostles' Creed. And if you need to look up the different iterations, they're actually listed at the beginning part of this section. What sets Christianity apart from all other religions is that we believe, as Christians, in one God, who is a communion of persons. I'm not going to tackle the whole idea of the Trinity at this point, but suffice it to say that God is a communion of divine persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The reference to this first statement in the Creed, that I believe in one God, includes the Trinitarian reality, and that's actually how the Creed is set up. I believe in God the Father, and in Jesus Christ, His only Son, and in the Holy Spirit. The creeds are set up that way. They have been throughout history. What's powerful about the Creed is its recognition of the fact that God reveals His name to the Jews and to us. And it's kind of a strange name, but you remember the scene from the burning bush in Exodus 3. Moses is there and he says, "Who are you?" And God says, "I am who am." And this is the holy and divine name of God. It seems like a strange name to us, but it expresses God's essence and God's identity, which in a sense is very similar to our own naming of things, Adam's naming of things. It expresses something fundamental about the thing that is named. It's also beautiful because God gives us His name. What a revelation, a powerful personal revelation, which helps us recognize as Christians that God isn't just some powerful force in the universe, some blob of light or some blob of energy, but that God is personal. And so He uses that revelation of His name to enter into communion with us in a personal way. a word about mystery, the term itself, and thinking about the church using that term to describe the great things that we believe, the mysteries of our faith, the Trinity, the Incarnation, the Paschal Mystery. The church doesn't use the word mystery the way that we normally think about it. It's not a Ray Bradbury or an Agatha Christie book where you figure out at the end who done it. The church uses mystery in a very specific sense. A mystery isn't something about which we can't know anything. It's something about which we can't know everything. And that's a really important distinction. God reveals himself to us, but not everything. And that mystery is applied even to the Lord's name. I am who am. It's beautiful to think about the fact that our God doesn't fit into categories. It's part of what makes him God. He's not definable in pure human terms. But he still reveals himself in his name and in his identity. Who is God? Well, there's some great formulations, some great definitions. One the Catechism offers is God is the fullness of being and every perfection, without origin and without end. All creatures receive all that they are and have from him, but he alone is his very being, and he is of himself everything that is. That's the God we profess to believe. That's the God who reveals himself in love. And God is this eternal exchange of love, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. John will call God love, love itself. And he desires that we share in that exchange with him. So what are the implications for believing in this one God? The Catechism notes a few things. I'll wrap up with this. First, we recognize God's greatness and majesty, that he is above all things, that he is creator of all things, source of all things that exist. And recognizing that, we pour ourselves out in thanksgiving and gratitude that we exist and that we are called to enter into that relationship. It helps us understand that all things are created with dignity, in particular, human beings created with dignity. And it helps us recognize that we ought to make good use of those created things, that they come from the source of God, the loving Father. And finally, it means that if God has revealed himself to us, all of that revelation is true, and as a result, we can trust in the things that he has revealed. So, there we are. Those are the paragraphs for today, 185 through 231. God is, and we believe in him. Thanks very much. We'll look forward to talking to you soon. God bless.